Hey everybody, it's Carm here, and Fuzzy's. Been quite a while since he appeared, the producer, but it's about that right time. I wanted to come on, just hanging out. Pretty cold and snowy day. I'm sure many of you are familiar with these little budget CD sets, 5 albums. Coming across these the other day. Right after I've been making a list, which I rarely ever do, about wanting to do a lot of artist spotlights for years now, and I finally made a list, and so I could kind of see them all in front of me. And I was trying to figure out how to approach them. Certain artists who have, particularly large catalogs, or maybe it consists of a lot of compilations, or a lot of different aspects to it. Wanted to find a way to sort of narrow it down a little bit. And coming across these, it struck me that maybe this would be the way to approach it. What would I choose if I were making, a 5-album set of a favorite artist that could serve as an introduction to them, as well as kind of a representative overview. And yeah, want to try this out. By the way, the artist I'm talking about is, well, maybe not. He's pretty different from Mr. Hackett, but maybe I could see something. They're doing a little something acoustically based. But yeah, the artist I want to talk about here, Jim Chappell, pianist, composer, arranger. Someone I've been into for many years. Like a lot of people, I'm looking to show and talk about. Someone I've listened to my whole life, pretty much most of it. His music to me is like really the quintessential summer music. Just everything about it just reminds you of summer, in the best sense. Especially as experienced, in childhood. It's very new and feels like it just goes on forever. Which of course is why I'm doing this in the middle of February, with under a foot of snow and single digits. But things happen that way sometimes. But yeah, Jim Chappell, born in 1955 in Michigan. I believe he was raised there too. Started playing piano at an early age. Was forming some of his own groups during that time. Sometime in his early adulthood, he made his way to Nashville, and as a songwriter for some time. Wasn't finding as much success as he would have liked, and started making solo albums. His first album here came out in '85. He's got his own label. It's called Unspeakable Freedom. This is a Music West issue the following year. His approach to piano, on the surface, it's very much what one would call hard on the sleeve. To me, he's really a master of shifting emotions, of expressing these emotions and feelings in a very short, very much a pop, you could call it like a pop song approach, kind of a 3-minute pop song, the way it's constructed. The sense of narrative is very much like that. And sometimes his melodies can get saccharine, sometimes to the point where it makes you maybe wince a little bit. But you could hear his real feeling coming through. And there's something about the way he constructs the music, his choice of chords, his phrasing, borrows from a lot of different music without really making an overt reference. You could hear a blues feel without it ever really being blues, or a little bit of gospel, jazzy, but not really jazz, that sort of thing. Really, so many things are thrown in, it's really indefinable, which I like about it. And on the surface, certain things can sound, again, maybe a little bit samey or a little bit effusive, but the way he does it is so individual. And something I really like is how some of his turns of phrase, he'll go from playing something, very effusive and kind of a major key, kind of very happy, and then he kind of all of a sudden starts descending, into something minor, a minor scale, and then it gets, he somehow makes it very seamless, going as the emotions shift in the playing. which I think drew me to him right away. I first heard him when I was about 14 or 15. They used to play him on WNUA, which was our kind of adult contemporary station at the time. But it seems like every other piece is kind of a different mood within it, sustained mood. Blue Racer starting off, and they're very much like the titles. They almost, to me, sound like television soundtracks in a way. Again, not too much to where it would be a cliche, but you could almost imagine. And really, it's like a television soundtrack as opposed to a movie soundtrack. It has more of that feel, maybe kind of episodic, in the way the music sort of is, in the sense that it's shorter. There's a lot of shorter pieces, and he makes his statements very quick as he's going. Sea Feeling is one of my favorites here. There's a great sense of drama in that piece and in a lot of his music. Again, talking about shifting emotions, just the way he goes from one to another seamlessly without it sounding awkward or pasted on. Tender Ritual, Magic Sleigh Ride, very much like a very bouncy, jaunty, happy piece. Again, makes no bones about what he's expressing. He's not trying to veil it in any way. It's right out there in front of you. And you kind of have to deal with it in a sense. Either it might turn you off for being so effusive or so. You could almost say lovey-dovey could be a term. But again, the way in which he chooses to construct the music, the little things he throws in, makes it like I want to hear more of this, because there's going to be something a little different to all of this. Outer Chase is very fun. Again, with the contrasts of pacing, mood. There is something about his sense of narrative, which again has that kind of pop song structure, which we've heard for 50, 60 years in many ways. But he always throws in little things that just to me really sustains interest. So this is a nice start right here. He followed it up with another album called Dusk in a very similar vein. But I'd say this is a good, starting right at the beginning with him. So yeah, Tender Ritual. Next up, it takes a bit of a turn after Dusk. Goes into Living the Northern Summer from 1989. I have it playing very lightly in the background. I don't know if I'm going to get a copyright thing or not, but just in case. But now this is different in the sense that he starts using an ensemble, almost somewhere between like kind of maybe like a smaller jazz group with like a chamber group, using woodwinds and some strings. Among others, you have Mark Russo from the Yellow Jackets on saxophone. A nice picture of him there with his dad, 1958. He has a piece here that's dedicated to him. I believe it is called Embrace of a Lifetime. Now this is really a beautiful album. I think it was a song from here that I first heard that introduced me to him. No surprise, heard on Musical Star Streams. Yeah, they played him on that station in general. Yeah, it was Storm Rider, which was mostly solo piano with bass guitar accompaniment. But on here, it's not just because of the title, but the way the music is constructed and the colors, the instruments, paint, you really can feel like you're in summer. The sense of wonder you felt, as a child, and in the best of times can still feel, even with even if you're not as much of a summer fan, with the heat and everything. But it does, you could definitely feel that on here. Adventure number 8, Dreams We Dreamt Together. You could hear, again, very effusive, but still, the way he uses colors just within his own playing is enough. But then you have, the ensemble, which kind of adds it all the more. And even the use of strings, there's sometimes with strings there's potential for it to be even more syrupy, but is able to kind of rein that in a little bit, or spread them out in a certain way. You could say emotionally, to where it covers a lot more ground than just that one aspect of it. But yeah, just a really beautiful evocation of that time, and also of that time in one's life. It's very much a picture of the music. But yeah, this is really the first time hearing with an ensemble, which he would do for the next several years overall. Just exploring different aspects of composing and arranging, for larger groups. So yeah, it's Living the Northern Summer, 1989. And next up, going ahead a few years to 1993, you have Over the Top. Now, in here he's forming a new group, a smaller group, kind of his version of a contemporary jazz group here, using guitar, bass, drums, some saxophone. It's very guitar dominated, which he hadn't really heard in his music before. Interesting hearing, and again, a lot of different styles that aren't necessarily overtly referred to. It's jazzy, maybe not jazz in the usual sense, but when each player brings into it, you can hear those little subtle influences. There's times where it almost sits in, for lack of a better word, maybe even a little bit Muzak-y, but again, something about his own writing approach keeps it from sitting there too long to where it sounds like mere background music. You want to hear kind of where he's going to take things next. Yeah, they're playing especially of the guitarist Jean-Michel Hiore. Particularly stands out here for expressing a lot of those different styles and approaches. Yeah, the Happy Camper, very much like the title. But again, it doesn't get again, there's potential for it to go over the top, but it kind of it pulls back a little bit. It seems when he's with the band, having them too kind of allows, again, things to kind of get spread out as far as the feeling and expression. Sometimes with his own solo work, his solo piano, it's more concentrated, and that emotion comes more fully and direct. Maybe a little overwhelming at times, depending on how he's expressing it. But with the band, it really gets it's spread out a little bit more. But yeah, just another beautiful piece and a nice approach here, and very upbeat overall. Overall, it's quite a very happy album. Very say more like a ushering in of spring than anything else. So yeah, Over the Top. Yeah. By the way, the band at this time, he had named it Hearsay, which he had played together for a few more years. So that one's from 1993. And next up, he shifts back to solo piano, 1994. Laughter at Dawn. Beautiful album. This might be my favorite of his solo piano works. This one differs from the previous two solo pianos, Tender Ritual and Dusk, in that it's more improvisational. So it sounds like you still kind of have that pop structure in a way, but he's doing a few more things, in between there. Again, not necessarily like you would have with jazz, where you state the theme and then improvise on it. You've got a little bit of that. It sounds sometimes like he almost goes in reverse, like he starts with the improvisation. It's almost like it starts off deconstructed, and then he kind of morphs it into the structure, the more pop-based structure. But just really beautiful, the way he all kind of ties it together. I'd say one of my all-time favorite pieces of his would be the title cut, Laughter at Dawn, the longest cut on here, almost 9 minutes. His sense of narrative on that one in emotion is just, to me, very powerful. It sounds like there's several pieces within one, but you could hear there's a lot of repeated phrases too, done in little, kind of modulating them a little bit differently. So you wonder if he's going to play something differently, but he actually is playing it differently. You just have to listen for those little changes where he'll repeat the phrase, but he'll add on a small section. And again, the way he ascends and descends. Other times it could sound maybe pasted on, or it's a little too a little awkward, but he finds a way to just make it right. And again, doing it within more of an improvisational approach is you know, something that draws me in all the more. So yeah, Laughter at Dawn, a return to solo piano, 1994. Yeah, beautiful stuff. And yeah, finally here for the you know, again, for making this kind of introductory, this 5-album set. In 1996, you have Cadia, which is his kind of his impressions in evoking a place in Maine he had gone to. I think all his life he had grown up around and visited a lot of places, you know, spent a lot of time in nature, and this was a place that he had you know, really had a strong impact on him. Now on this one he goes back to returns to more ensemble playing, similar to Living the Northern Summer. This one even gets to be has kind of a classical feel to it. His composing and arranging becomes more, you could hear it more sophisticated and more detailed. But again, a master of emotion here. I could hear more in the way of you know, strings and woodwinds. But yeah, this one's a very, very beautiful album. Yeah, pieces that stand out to me here: Long Pond Canoe, Out Towards the Islands, number 9. That one is, I'd say, the most gospel. As far as music, other kinds of music, that's something where that influence is most apparent. His use of voices, background voices, which gradually come to the foreground. It's so beautiful the way they sort of swell and build up, and just it really is like almost like an incantation in a way. But again, done in his own very, you know, very distinctive style, and just gorgeous. I mean, one of those things that's hard to listen to with dry eyes, but just yeah, just the way everything is all comes together. As I was listening to all of these, I wasn't even really checking to see, you know, for the most part, what song was where, or where I was on. Just kind of hearing it all as one unified thing, and which I think is a good way to listen to, well, a lot of things, of course, but him, we could really hear, you know, because it really is kind of like one piece. It's just little, you know, just little. You'd almost say like little indentations of a different turn of phrase, which again is something that I really really find very attractive and appealing about his music in general. Yeah, and it really does sound like this. You know, it is more autumnal, warmer, cooler and warmer than some of the previous ones. Which I don't know if he's ever done like a winter themed album. I have to look. But, yeah, Cadia. Another side of his playing and composing. Again, getting a little more classically tinged, but still very much him. And yeah, just wanted to try this out. You know, a little introduction to Jim Chappell. Is an artist I know I've mentioned before in passing here and there. You know, certain albums, different times, but yeah, for some reason this is the time to return to him, and wanting to share him for quite a while. And yeah, we'll see what comes next. I try this approach with other artists too. They're just depending, you know, I'll vary it from time to time, but yeah, I definitely want to do a lot more, just feature a lot more artists. Just meaning to get around to it for, you know, the longest time, and I'm going to do it. So hope we're all well. Thank you for watching, and we're keeping warm where you're at. Well, till the next one. Peace, love, and joy.